All right, so I'll give you the next question I'm going to ask you is how Iran would retaliate. But before that, I want to give you my theory that's a bit different. This time around, I think the Americans are in a stronger position than they were before. So me and you were in agreement for most of our discussions that I'll tell you why. A bit better than it was before. I'm not saying it's a good position for obvious reasons, because the same issues that existed before still exist right now. Gulf infrastructure, the Strait of Hormuz, etc.
But okay.
Yeah. No, because I'll tell you why it's not worse. The opening of the Strait of Hormuz allowed all that oil to flow out, allowed the refineries in the Gulf to kind of kick back up pretty quickly.
Some of them, one of them blew up.
The one in Qatar, yeah.
The big one.
So they managed to go back to production relatively quickly or beat expectations. Even the Qatari gas field, they're saying many years to repair. Apparently, it's only going to take a few months instead of whatever number of years that people were speculating. The price of oil's collapsed to below $70, okay? So that gives more breathing room to Trump. By the way, this is not my genius idea. One of my guests yesterday.
I know. I watched it. It was good. He said a lot of the things you and I have been talking about. He was a very good guest. You should have him on more.
He's great. Yeah, I enjoyed him. He's a good guest.
I don't remember his name, but he's a smart guy.
Yeah, I mentioned him a few times. It was the first time he was on the show. He's going to be back again for sure.
Good.
His name was, just to make sure we're talking about the same guy.
Was it Clayton, I think, or something like that?
Ali Alizadeh, is that him or different?
No, I was talking about
the oil guy.
The oil guy.
Robert. Yeah, I think he's Robert something. Yeah, he was a
good one. I didn't see the other one. I apologize.
So this gentleman told me, he's an Iranian, and he told me, Mario, a lot of people, including himself, a lot of people in Iran are concerned by the Iranians opening up the Strait of Hormuz so early. They allowed prices of oil to go down. They probably saw the price, how quickly it went down. They were even surprised. They're like, holy shit, we gave breathing space to Trump, making Trump feel more emboldened. And another thing that also happened, Brandon, is the Gulf nations have started improving relations and shifting more towards the Iranians.
Yes.
Even J.D. Vance himself admitted it. He said in his own words, the Emiratis, which were the most hawkish against Iran, he said that, even they are now getting closer to Iran and improving diplomatic relations. So if you have the Gulf getting closer to Iran, you have the price of oil down so much, and more ships have managed to go through. That makes it difficult for Iran to retaliate right now. Why? Let me explain fully. Why is it more difficult? They can close the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not talking about a permanent close, because we're not talking about a full-blown war yet. But they can close the Strait of Hormuz, but Trump and the global economy could really withstand that, because prices collapsed so much, more than most people expected. It's difficult for them to attack the Gulf. It will take a lot more for them to attack the Gulf. Why? Because relations have improved. It's very difficult to attack the Emiratis or the Qataris, or the Kuwaitis or Bahrainis when you're sitting there having meetings to improve relations and to try to rebuild trust. And they would probably hesitate to attack the Israelis because they don't want to fall into Israel's trap. Israel may be waiting for them to attack, to use that as an opportunity to sabotage the MOU negotiations. So the Iranians are in a position right now where they need to retaliate. They can strike American bases, but there's not much equipment there compared to what was there before. So the Iranians are not as free to retaliate as they were before. Now, they can still cause damage, but I think they gave a bit of breathing space to Trump, and Trump has a bit more leeway to operate with certain limitations. If Trump goes too far and the Iranians are like, all right, you crossed way too many lines, I'm sure they won't hesitate to attack the Gulf as they did before. I'm sure of that. But I'm just saying, if Trump escalates within certain bounds, the Iranians have less options as they would have had before. Not sure if I explained it well.
I know what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with that, because and he's obviously an Iranian, he's on the ground, so maybe he has more insight on this one than I do. But
I only took one part of what he said. The rest of mine.
Okay, all right.
What I said.
Well, okay.
Just criticize me. Stay with me.
Well, I'm not criticizing him at all. I'm just saying, he might have greater insight on this than I would as somebody who's involved in the ground. But what I will say is, this price drop is not something that we should be taking as the new normal, because the price drop is twofold, right? The first is the analysts I talked to, and your other guest, the one that I was talking about, said this yesterday, which confirmed what I had heard from some of the analysts in the oil sector I talked to at the beginning of the war. Anticipate outflows once it's reopened on any level to really be significant, because there's so many ships that were stopped up there. They were referring to it to me as a mini-glut. And I think that's what the term your guest used yesterday as well, a mini-glut. So this was from the savvier side of things of the analytical community. This was always anticipated. Once they started reopening even a little bit, we were going to see the supply getting back onto the market from the ships that were sitting there for the last 100+ days. Second thing is, now I had anticipated this, but not to the level they did it at. The Chinese completely voluntarily took themselves off the market for 2 months, which is the reason that we had any kind of relief. They've gone through, what I have heard is that China's gone through maybe a third or a little bit more of their 1.4 billion barrel supply. Okay, now their strategic reserve is different on a sort of technical level than ours, whereas ours is kept in these old salt caverns, which means the oil gets corrupted over time. The Chinese keep theirs above ground. It's different. It's actually better. But what I am anticipating is they're not going to want to blow through their whole reserve, keeping themselves off the market until this situation with Iran is resolved. So I'm anticipating soon the Chinese are going to come wading back onto the market. And when they do, that's going to cause everything to go up again, because there's no way that the Strait is going to be fully reopened anytime soon. And every analyst that I spoke to about the issue of the refiners and the producers in the Arab states, their statement to me was months, not weeks. That it's going to take months to get the Arab states back at full capacity.
Yeah.
Right, but that's the key, because it's not just outflows. You have to have inflows, right? You have to have ships queuing up to load up new supply. They have to be maintained at a flow rate in terms of ships through the Strait at between 120 and 140 ships per day. We got to 70 yesterday. A lot of those, by the way, I believe were Iranian ships. They were not all of these, non-involved parties. So you have 70 ships. That's good, but that's about half of what you need, and you got to sustain that. And we're not. Look what happened. They got to 70 yesterday, and then today you got ship on fire in the Strait. You've got bombs going off again. You think Lloyd's of London is going to authorize these ships to go through under these conditions? You're taking your life in your own hands. And so this, to me, is all gobbledygook. We're going to be seeing automatically, there's going to be soon price increases. The market's going to have to adapt, because there are going to be shortages. There are going to be things that are going to complicate the ability to keep prices low. And in particular in the United States, I have again heard this, that it's not 340 million usable barrels in our strategic reserve. It's closer to 100 million because of the science involved in how we are dealing with, how we handle the strategic reserve. So what that tells me is by July 2nd, the weekend of July 4th, as early as that, you will start seeing shortages in our reserve supply without any commensurate new sources coming on to meet the increases in demand. And that tells me there's going to be an imbalance. That tells me there will be economic shocks. There are going to be price increases. They will probably be radical going into the new quarter of the fiscal year. So, all of this that's going on in the Strait of Hormuz does not work in the favor of the optimists, unfortunately.
Okay. On the price of oil, one thing I always say, look, for months people warning me about $200, $250 price of oil. It barely hit 120, whatever it was, and now it's at 70. So I always say it's always good to discuss with different analysts what it could be and what it should be. But there's one thing we cannot argue with is what it is and what you could buy it for right now. And right now it's below $70. It's a fact, whatever we think. And that fact, I'll just link it to what we're talking about now. I think that fact gave breathing room for Trump to do what he did today and strike Iran.
I don't think it was breathing room. I think he felt he had to respond because he's trying to reassert control over the Strait of Hormuz, and it's not going to work. The Iranians are not going to give up on the Strait of Hormuz. This is their only ticket. This is it. The regime, it's not just now survival, and I think you've talked to other guests about this. It's not just about survival anymore. They've already done that. Now they are going to solidification of control. And for the regime in Tehran, Strait of Hormuz is now a non-negotiable. It's even more important than any potential nuclear weapons program. So they are not, this is existential. So
I think it's, okay, so I think it is negotiable. I think it is negotiable.
I hope you're right.
With the right amount of assets unfrozen and sanctions lifted, I think they would not charge a fee for the Strait of Hormuz if they're completely welcome to the global economy, which I don't think will happen. But that does not mean they lose their leverage. What people need to understand is if Iran doesn't charge a fee at the Strait of Hormuz, it does not mean they cannot close it. Whether they charge a fee or not does not change the fact that they have leverage in terms of the fact they can close it. They know they can close it, and the world knows they can close it. That's the leverage, not the fee itself.
I would just say, and I think there's some truth to that, but I would just say that if you're sitting in Iran, you've just been surprise attacked under the cover of diplomacy. You've watched some of your top leaders get murdered. You are in a region where the other parties in the region are always looking for signs of weakness. You cannot just let things go on addressed. This is it. And the Persians, they've been saying this for a long time. This is now an issue of justice in their minds. They're going to exact some kind of, it's not just going to be, okay, you give us back our money. By the way, the Americans are saying they're not going to give the money. They're saying it's going to be up to the Arab states. The Arab states might, but the point is that the Iranians, this is more than just an economic situation. The Iranians want what they perceive as justice. They want revenge on some level. And so you're now dealing with another factor here that's not rational entirely. Well, that's not materialistic. And anyway, on the materialistic side, yes, getting the money back, getting integrated into the world economy, yes, that will pay them very good sums in the long run. But I mean, some of the potential money they could be making is as high as $100 billion a year off of fees. That's not. I don't know if they charge $1 to $2 million. Well, it doesn't matter. The point is that's what their own government is saying. This is what they are assessing. So it doesn't really matter what we think. What matters is what are the Iranians? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think the Iranians are saying it is. And I think they're looking around now and they're saying, look, we've been attacked unprovoked. They're pushing us around. They tried to kill our leaders. They're trying to overthrow our government. They're trying to kill us. We're not just going to let them get off easy. We want the Strait. And I think that they think they have an argument to it. And I think I think that's absolutely non-negotiable here. I think that they've made this very clear. And there's a reason they keep punting when this comes up. They keep punting on this issue because it's 60 days. So 60 days, they're not going to, this is how they negotiated it with the Trump administration. We won't charge a toll for 60 days. After 60 days, we sit down and we supposedly are going to discuss a longer lasting deal. But guess what? That means they want those fees, and they've already created the bureaucratic means, and their parliament already passed a law demanding that they basically exact tolls in the long run out of the Strait. And so now it's an act of their parliament. And now I honestly, I don't see how they don't try to exact fees. This is everything.
I think they will. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying that it is negotiable. I just don't think the Americans will be able to give what the Iranians would want for them not to charge a fee. If the Americans are like, you know what, we'll remove all our military presence, all our sanctions,
that's happening no matter what.
Assets will be unfrozen.
That's happening
lifting
no matter
of
what.
Are you saying that Congress,
the military, we're not going to be invited back in any serious. It will happen
back in. We are. The Americans are in. The Americans are
in a reduced form, and I guarantee you, exactly in 5 or 10 years, you're going to see real shifts in the. But the Iranians, all they have to do then is hang on. Again, the Persians are long-term players. They don't have to do anything right away. They can keep kicking the can down the road and be like, okay, well, we know there's no way the Arabs are going to let the Americans be maintaining the same kind of presence that they have enjoyed for the last 30 plus years. Ain't going to happen. In fact, I'm hearing from people in some of these Arab states that, like Saudi Arabia, for instance, they're talking about eventually diversifying off of the U.S. defense supply chain and buying from Russia and possibly even looking at buying from China. So that's a huge blow to the U.S. if they actually do that. And I think they will over time, not overnight, but over time. And so if you're sitting in Iran, again, it's like the Taliban used to mock us. They used to say, you Americans have all the watches, but we have all the time. I think it's the same is true for the Islamic Republic. They don't have to really stress too much about it. And furthermore, I just think that I think also the sanctions are going to be relieved. Why? We have to quickly and rapidly restore our strategic reserve. We have to quickly and rapidly restore the flow of energy out of the region. This is why also they're reducing the sanctions on Russia. This is not because Washington wants to. It's because otherwise, if we don't do something rapid to quickly restore things, the whole economy goes off a cliff in like 2.5 weeks. So yeah.
The sanctions will need the approval of Congress. A lot of them do, not all of them. It'll take a lot to get current members of Congress to approve something like this.
We'll see.